That's how I remember to stay up on it.
And that's how we started today's show.
Too bad you couldn't see the visuals to go with it.
I saw it. I wanted to unsee it, quite frankly. Hey, Kelly guest here. Colleen Bertino is on the DL today, but we'll have her back next week. Megan Vaughn, hello.
Hello.
And the return of Bri Lopez-Donovan. Hey, Bri.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
Yeah, you are kind of a queen of all trades, I'm going to say.
Thank you.
But we know you as a techie and a serious blogger. How's that all going for you?
Good. I have not been as on top of my blogging as I probably should be, but I'm kind of dabbling in a few different fields right now and just dipping my feet in some different pools.
For sure. Well, and that's a good thing to do, especially when you're at the age that you're at and you're into the kind of thinking that you are, you know, and find the right outlet for your expression. So we're always glad to have you here. We'll talk a little bit more about what you're working on and what you're thinking about right now, because, my God, there's enough going on every single bloomin' front. But one thing I wanted to bring up, and we'll talk about this again. I'm sure we'll be talking about this for a while, off and on. So last week, we noticed that actually a former colleague of mine, Carrie Miller, who works for NPR, she does one of the day shows, and she used to be on Care 11. And I knew her. We used to have her on Cities 97 a lot as just whatever she would be reporting on. And then she wrote a mystery book. And I was at her book release party, and Vince Flynn was there. Sweet. And yeah, I mean, this was like 2001 or 2 when her book came out, when she was still on TV. And so she's moved into different things. And now, completely outside of what she's doing for NPR, she's started a podcast called Great Sex.
Oh my God.
And she's doing it with a friend of hers. And I think when I read the story, it really, there's a lot of the intent that Colleen had with starting the Great Northern Sexcast. To educate women, mostly women, but people, is what it said, about, you know, realities and stuff, and not slamming anybody, or, you know, I'm sure it will attract a slightly different audience, but the mission is not really all that different for ours. And I do want to state for the record, we've been doing this for 18 months and she just started. And, you know, I think that's fine. One of the things that I thought when I was reading about it is, it's like, the last thing I want to do is hear sex talked about like NPR. I mean, I like our edge. You know what I mean? I don't want to have it, you know, clitoral stimulation, blah, 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 blah. You know, I mean, I don't know. And I don't know if that's how they are. I've got to check it out, you know, here pretty soon. But I think that I'd love to hear from people on the Great Northern Sexcast page about what we'd like to hear more of with our format. And if there's stuff that we're not hitting that you'd like to hear. So let us know.
Well, I would say this podcast is like sex, and it takes what? Communication.
Oh, yes, it does.
What are your fantasies, Great Northern Sexcast listeners?
Yes.
What would you like to hear all about?
Yeah, and I mean, it's funny because, I mean, we the shows kind of go, this is what I think. I mean, we ebb and flow with things, and it depends on who's in the room with us, too. I mean, God knows the swingers, you know, all the doors fly open when they come in. Last week, we had an LMFT and self-described sex coach here, Kelly Matsuhashi. And she is so cool. She's really neat. She started realizing that people wanted to be able to go to someone that they could be very direct about sex with. So she was just an awesome, awesome lady. So that brings a little bit of a different tone. And then every week we have to see who's naked in Florida and what they're doing.
Probably shenanigans.
Always. There's
That'll be
always
my
something.
guess.
Actually, this time I think it's in... I'll find it. We've got it though, and there's video.
We've got naked people. Don't you worry.
And every week we bring you the naked people. So let's start out too, since Colleen's literally at the last minute, she's not feeling well. Bri, you just got back from Comicon.
I did.
In San Diego. All right, take it away, Megan. Explain to everybody who might be old like me, who doesn't get it, and why this is so cool.
Oh, well, I'm just going to say, first off, I apologize. I'm going to tend to not go down a geeking out rabbit hole with you, Bri, today for the show. But essentially, and obviously you can speak a little more to it, but it is a huge pop culture convention covering pretty much anything pop culture, down to sci-fi, fantasy, Marvel movies. I know, and the San Diego one is probably the biggest one, I would say. They do them all over different cities. They have some here. Fantasy Gifts was there for a couple of years. We will not be back, unfortunately, but we'll just save all our energy for Crypticon. Yay. And so because San Diego obviously is the biggest one, they have a lot of really awesome like panel discussions where they will talk about different aspects of pop culture and how it relates even to society, or Q&As with some of the celebrities and stars, and they release all kinds of fun new stuff. I was busy drooling over the new Wonder Woman trailer that came out from there. So it's just a really amazing event for anyone who's a fan of pretty much any media in general, I would say.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely.
So what would you add to by way of description, because you were there?
It's the most diverse convention that I've been to. I haven't been to a lot of conventions, so I am coming from that kind of like newbie perspective, but coming from the Midwest and getting to San Diego Comicon, it's just like you could throw a rock and hit like 5 different people who speak different languages, have different backgrounds, and just all different kinds of ideologies. And I found that really amazing and exciting.
Yeah. So what do you do? I mean, this went for days.
It did. Yeah. It goes over the span of, I believe it's 4 days. I had tickets for 3 days because it's pretty pricey and it's kind of hard to get tickets. Kind of is an understatement. Let's see, there's, like Megan said, there are so many panels, and it's such a variety between the Q&A panels with the celebrities of the different TV shows. I went to a sing-along panel about Steven Universe, and they did all of the songs that are on Steven Universe, some of the most popular ones. That was amazing to see, and I got to hear the creator of the show talk a little bit about kind of the sexual undertones of the show, which is kind of amazing because it's a kids show, and it's one of the queerest kids shows on TV right now. It's about these gems who are like basically these alien gemstone creatures, but they live in what to many people looks like almost a polyamorous kind of relationship unit, and they're raising this kid together. And I don't want to go down a rabbit hole about it, but it's awesome.
That's an interesting thing. And the sexual undertones of the entire conference. I mean, hit on that for me a little bit.
So, I personally, I didn't see a ton of the sexual undertones just because I was hopping around so much. I mean, it's the first time I've been there, so it's kind of like, whoa, I don't even know what to look at. Yeah. But I did do a blog a while ago about the kink culture that is kind of inherently in most convention spaces. There's a huge overlap between geek culture and kink culture and like the two communities. So I don't doubt that there's a lot of kinky shit going on at SDCC.
I think it's really cool because, I mean, that's a lot of the point of, I would say in particular, sci-fi and fantasy, is that it is a vehicle for social discussion. It's usually a metaphor for something,
Absolutely.
you know? And I mean, Star Trek was created because Gene Roddenberry, like, that's the world he wanted to live in. So he decided to create it, you know? And you think of all the barriers. I mean, the first interracial kiss ever shown on television was Kirk and Uhura on Star Trek. So it's really...
Weren't they... Oh, God, it's been so damn long since I've seen all those. I used to watch it with my brother when I was a kid, but wasn't that when they were, like, under some spell of some sort, too?
Yes.
They couldn't just have them hook
No.
That
No.
would have been... It had to be...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right, he can fucking green people, you know, sexy green ladies or whatever else alien he stumbles across. That's cool, but... You know, if he's going to kiss a black woman, it better be under some kind of wacky spell. But even then, like, just those little steps that they take. And, I mean, that's why, I don't know, I can't speak for all the geeks out there, but that's one thing I really embrace about that is how it is often just a metaphor, and if there's undertones and all of those kinds of writings if you really look for them.
Oh, for sure. And that's why we bring Bri in, who needs to lean in on her microphone just a little bit more, because I'm barely seeing a register when you talk, my dear.
Oh, no.
You are such a soft-spoken girl, which is so funny because on paper, not so much.
No.
But yeah, I mean, so I bet that the Comicon trip must have been just an amazing wealth of material for you. You probably just don't even know where to start, do you?
I don't. There was so much to take in. One of my, I think the Steven Universe panel was probably my favorite. I also sat in on the American Gods panel with Neil Gaiman and the soon-to-be cast of American Gods.
Was Gillian Anderson there? Had she been announced yet?
Oh my God, I wish. I
would have died a little.
Celebrity crush. But, I mean, like Megan said, there are undertones in almost every aspect of sci-fi and fantasy. I mean, it's in the name even, fantasy. I mean, there's just so much there's something for everyone to relate to, I think.
Yeah, it's a big, huge, it's become a huge, I mean, at first, I think for the first few years when this started getting media attention, and it started bleeding into the broader public, the more vanilla people, if you will, everybody thought it was silly. It was like the general public, not the people that were into it. Let me qualify that. And now the acceptance and the expansion of it, it's like, it's exponential every year.
Thanks, Marvel.
Right? Exactly.
Let's get real.
That's interesting. So let's do some news. And then we do have, just a really side question. Did your wife go with you, Bri?
She did, yeah.
Okay. Was that fun as a couple?
That was so much fun. We geeked out so much together, and it was like a nice bonding experience, especially after the road trip, because that's stressful.
Oh, did you drive?
We did, yeah.
Oh, my God.
That was stressful. It was fun, but stressful. And then you get to geek out and just, like, fangirl together, and it's wonderful.
Did they have a lot of... like cosplay is not consent signage
oh my gosh,
and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I want to talk about that for a second.
Yeah,
so,
go ahead.
I was trying to interview some people at San Diego Comic-Con just about their general experiences with the convention and what they liked, didn't like, etc. And as I'm sitting in this like little alcove behind some stairs just trying to eat my lunch away from the crowd, I see out the windows these two women who are completely topless, and they have, like, the tape over the nipples, and then on their backs and, like, bellies and stuff, they have Free the Nipple. And they've got these signs they're holding, and they're, like, interviewing with people and telling them about what they're trying to do. And so I run outside because I'm really interested in, like, what are you doing here at this convention? Like, what inspired you to do this here? And they said their biggest inspiration for going to San Diego Comic-Con and doing that there was the idea that costumes are not consent, and that there's still this general idea of if a woman is wearing a skimpy cosplay, that's an invitation to touch or grope or make shitty comments. Mm-hmm. And it's definitely still something that's being battled.
Okay.
That's good that they're trying.
And let me jump right to one of the news stories that we have in here. This is absolutely kind of amazing. Let me scroll down to it. It's deeper into the show here. A young gal, she was celebrating her 22nd birthday at Six Flags, and I can't remember which state it was in, but we've got the link, and we'll put the picture. She's a very cute, very pretty East Indian descent female, and her boyfriend's adorable too. Just an awesome looking couple, and she was wearing a V-neck, and she's got some cleavage or whatever. But I mean, and she had a bralette under it, so whatever. But I mean, it was not disgusting, and she was not billowing out of her shirt by any stretch of the imagination. She got into the park and then forgot something in her car, went back out to get it, and a male security guard told her that she'd have to change her shirt, that it was inappropriate. So there's pictures, and I would love for the Great Northern Sexcast audience to take a peek at this. So she argued, she's like, it's funny, because when I came in this morning, the female security guard didn't say anything. Well, this is a family environment, blah, 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 blah. So the guy that she's with, I don't know if they're a couple or not, but they are a cute couple. They traded shirts. So now he's wearing the V-neck with his chest hair sticking out, and she put on his sort of, muscle shirt looking sort of thing. And then they went back in, but she tweeted it, and big backlash. And Six Flags is trying to backpedal on it. But really, at the end of the day, discrimination much?
No kidding.
Right.
Well, and I love the excuse of this is a family-friendly environment. Like, families don't have boobs. That's not news. Like, that shouldn't be a surprise.
They're generally involved in the family aspect of things in one way or another. Yeah.
Well, in particular,
creating it or feeding
right.
it, you know.
And I imagine they have probably like a water park and stuff, so there's not going to be people in bikinis or bathing suits or, you know, anything.
I know. I just had to throw that in there. Well, keep your sigh on, because there's the next two stories are like, seriously, and I knew that Bri was going to be here, and I wanted to see what saucy stuff she'd have to add to this. But I'm
sorry, I'm still in geek mode, and you said keep your sigh on, and I'm like, isn't that like Xena's weapon?
Listen, SIGHON. I'm so out of my depth right now. So in New York, luckily it didn't happen, but there was an attempted rape at a church.
Oh.
There's like
what the hell?
I know, there's an APB out on a guy. The woman headed into the bathroom of a church gymnasium on Staten Island, and a guy was in there, grabbed hold of her, and started unbuckling his pants, and she managed to wriggle free and get loose. They've got a little security footage of him. Please catch this bastard. I mean, ew. You can't even be at church. You know, that was disgusting. Sad story. Kentucky, Judge Amber Wolf. Megan, you'll be a fan of hers. So,
yes.
Did you hear about this?
Yes, I saw the video. She's amazing.
Oh yeah, a little foreshadowing here. Basically, the Department of Corrections brought a prisoner to court without any pants on. She didn't have any pants. They had denied her access to hygiene products and basically clothing for 3 days. And the judge, you've got to watch the video. I sent the link to you, Meg. We'll put it up on the page. Literally has a meltdown and asks if she's in the twilight zone, and went off on the Department of Corrections for inhumane treatment. And she said, I'm wondering if there's anybody who can come to my courtroom and tell me why there's a female defendant standing in front of me with no pants on. Now, picture that coming from the bench, right? So, something to watch.
Just two stories about two kind of rough institutions that have a lot of baggage involved behind them and need a lot of work.
Well, number one, they do. That's true. But number one, I don't know that they'd drag a man in there without pants.
No.
I would say not.
You know, that's number one. And number two, here's the other side of it. You know, being a criminal is not a good idea. Avoiding jail at all costs, advised, whatever, but still. If you end up there, I mean, there's a certain modicum of decency that should be upheld, and it wasn't there, but the judge is a blast. You'll love her. Mm-hmm. This one was for Colleen. Long story short, the two counties in Kansas, which is where my parents were both born, that have the highest rate of STDs and teen pregnancy. Long story short, they've been told that Kansas will not be applying for federal grants to fuel sex education anymore. And these are all the other counties have it available from different regional pools of money, but these were the ones that needed it, and they got cut. So now the two worst counties in Kansas that need sex ed more than anybody are cut off from the only funding source.
Because if you have a leaky tire, avoid the mechanic at all costs. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, this mechanic might make me want to drive more if I get my tire fixed, so...
God. It's just, Colleen, this would have been a 10-minute rant.
Yeah, it's the same. I don't understand this current, maybe it's not current. It's probably not if I look through history, but this idea of politicizing science and facts.
Yeah.
The same with climate change. Like, I watched a lot of both of the conventions, and at one point Hillary's like, I believe in climate change, and everyone's like, yay. And I'm like, why is that a statement that has to be made? Why is something that
should be basic.
Right, proven by science and facts, why are these open for debate? It's baffling to me.
It's something that we're still battling in schools across the country, and it is amazing. They can literally track the statistics for when the either amount and or quality of sex education in schools declines, then certain things that most people ostensibly would like to avoid increase, such as unwanted pregnancy and STDs. So It's interesting. So have you ever been to like a Benihana's, and I'm not calling Benihana's out because it's not their restaurant, but you know what I'm talking about. It's a Japanese hibachi grill. Super fun, right?
Oh, yeah.
Food, love the food. And, I don't know where they find those people that don't cut their hands off and fingers and, everything else. And they do all that crazy stuff. And they're generally, would the table agree that these guys are characters?
Oh, yeah.
Or gals, but I don't think I've ever seen a female hibachi chef yet when I've been. So this one out in the Seattle area, you know how they squirt the oil and then sometimes they throw water on it to make it steam, whatever they're trying to do. Well, this one has this item called a pee-pee doll. And there's a picture of it, and I sent it to you, Megan. It can go up on the Facebook page. But they use it to extinguish flame. It's water in this little kid, and he doesn't have a member, but the pants go down, and water comes out onto the thing. Well, the chef, if you will, the performer, used it to squirt a woman in the crowd,
oh, no.
which he does apparently on a regular basis. And it's like, just real quick, just eat. And, you can read this thing in several different ways. She's trying to get it. They called the police and called it sexual assault with the pee-pee doll, even though it didn't have a wiener. She said, but you get the picture. And my grandchild saw it and this, that, and the other thing. And they're pressing this as a PR thing. The restaurant has apologized and said they'll ask for permission before squirting people going forward. But I just wanted to throw that on the table and see what everybody thinks.
Calling it sexual assault, that's a bit much. I think any survivor hearing that would be like, what the hell?
Right. Yeah, it's super extreme. Although I'm a little torn on this story only in that I do not think they should be squirting people without. I'm glad that they're asking. I think they already should have. I think it was kind of dumb not to.
Agreed.
Especially, these places are expensive, right? So imagine
they are.
You can go like every year, your one fancy thing, you get all dressed up and then some doll pisses on your face. And it's like, if I wanted golden showers, I could have stayed home and done that for free,
And I do feel like if I was sitting there and I noticed that it was only women getting squirted, that would feel a little bit weird.
The story doesn't really go there. I think usually they use it like on the actual grill because they try to create steam. They try to keep everything looking. I don't know how they do it. I think it's fascinating to me.
Right.
It's almost as much fun as eating, but it's like. But yeah, I don't know. They didn't say whether or not it was only men or women. But overreaction much. I don't know.
think column A and a column B. Don't squirt people who don't ask. I think that's we talk loud about consent. I think that's an overall good general rule.
Definitely.
Also, a doll cannot sexually assault you. So calm down.
Well, alrighty then.
Yep.
All right, we got to go back to Pokemon. Pokemon Go. God, talk about exponential growth of something. Holy Mother of God. And whenever something becomes that popular, I refuse to have anything to do with it. That's just me. I've been that way my entire life. It could be a TV show. It can be any kind of a fad. But this one's good, and we knew this was coming. Teenager playing. Stumbled upon a couple having sex in an office window in full view of the street. He videotaped it.
Oh my God.
And this actually happened in the Dominican Republic, but the video, of course, has now gone viral. And the secretary, who was alleged to be the woman, said, "Hey, I'm lodging a formal complaint because I was named and it's not me. Like, if you look at the girl here, she's got like maybe A boobs. Check out my double D's. That isn't me, but my name has gone out all the way through." This story brings up like so many different things. Somebody was screwing somebody stupidly in front of a window. Okay, Don't do that. Everybody has a video phone now. But if it wasn't her, what about the crazy juggernaut of internet? Who do you extract the oops from?
It's nearly impossible, as many victims of revenge porn can attest. Once something is online, it is near impossible to get it off. And you can get it off a site at a time, this site, that site, this site, but it's always somewhere. There's no way to scrub it. 20 years from now, you Google her name, and I wouldn't be shocked if this story comes up.
And I really feel for her. That's just so wrong. And you know how they have that thing called LifeLock, where they're trying to sell you identity theft protection up to $1 million to fight whatever. I mean, they have the funniest commercials out there when I'm not a security guard, I'm a security monitor. When the bank robbery is happening, cracks me up. Anyway, you know, I'm wondering if there isn't going to become a whole industry of some sort of insurance that you can get to scrub / fight / whatever, or that creates some sort of a registry to where people can go and say that it was proven testimony back. So like say an employer is looking for Bri Lopez-Donovan later and say this was you, okay? Maybe they could go back and say that no, complaint filed with, and they could read the other side. Do you understand? I think something like that's going to emerge. It's going to have to.
I would be really surprised if it didn't already exist.
Yeah.
It's probably not common knowledge perhaps, but I would be shocked if something like that didn't exist already.
Yeah, but a standardized thing that the average person could get their hands on, because I mean, if you've got a lot of money to fight stuff, anything you want is out there. I mean, let's be honest. But I mean, I'm thinking something that's almost like, you know, franchised, you know, I have blah, blah, blah image protection, or, you know, I don't know. It's kind of weird. The other thing on Pokemon, they're now having a problem in New York. They are forbidding sex offenders from playing the game because they don't want them going into areas where children are. And they're fighting a big battle now because parks and all sorts of things. So they have right now got a ban on sex offenders from playing. And if you get caught playing, it could be considered a violation
That's super sticky.
I was going to say that is a really sticky wicket.
Yeah.
I mean, are they not allowed to go into parks already?
Generally, yeah. There's generally restrictions depending on so many feet from schools, so many feet from parks. I mean, yeah, there are. I
don't know that I like this.
Me either, because like I've played it once or twice, but I've usually played it taking my dog on walks, just like around the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. So it's not something that you can only play in parks. So in that sense, like, why would you put a ban on that when you can just play it somewhere else?
Right. I mean, you can play it at work, around your neighborhood, whatever. I mean, I get, like, if someone who is a sex offender goes into a park and they can tell from, I mean, heck, they could probably even tell from the game that they've been in that park, then they can get in trouble for breaking that particular rule. But to say they can't play at all seems something icky. I mean, and it's one of those things, you know, we talk about this where something that might not be right is going to stand because who's going to be the official who's like, you know what, I would like to stand up and speak on behalf of these sex offenders and defend their rights.
Yeah.
You know, that's not going to happen. But just because they're not going to have a voice doesn't mean we can take away their fun.
Right. I'd agree with that.
So it's coming out, though. I mean, that's. I mean, I just can't believe all the insane amount of news generated with where this game gets mentioned. It's unbelievable.
I thought you were going to mention the sex toys.
Oh, which ones? Are they coming out with?
There's Pokemon sex toys. Yes.
Are they new? Did they come out just like in a frenzy?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. You know, they're on Etsy. So actually, honestly, they probably could have existed because you can find a sex toy version of just about anything on Etsy already. But I know the stories at least are starting to come out. And I was looking at all of them. I'm like, okay, good. All right. These are good designs. I've
got to say, I'm a little surprised that Bulbasaurus was not the butt plug.
Right.
I feel like there's just so much potential there.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all. Okay, the Randy couple that I was going to tell you is Berlin, is where the naked people are this week. This is hysterically funny because the video is a progression. They do have the guy's butt, which is bobbing up and down because they're getting busy. How at first, when this person is taping from a few feet back, people are just walking by, they're not even noticing. Well, then all of a sudden, you see the heads kind of start to turn. And these people are just fucking away. I mean, they are just fucking right by a tree in a park. And all of a sudden, they're like, oh my God, they're fucking, So then, as time goes on, the passersby get bolder until they're standing right there. You guys have to watch this video. It's absolutely hysterical. It's gone, It's gone viral. It was uploaded to Live Leak, and it's got over 110,000 views, and I think that's in just like 2 days.
Oh my
God. There it is. We've got the link to it, but it just cracked me up at how people are like, wow. And then they just keep inching closer to where they're standing. The people just keep going.
Oh, yeah. They're probably getting exactly what they wanted.
Okay.
Yep, that's a kink.
Mm-hmm. All right. So this is weird. We talk about sex robots, sex bots all the time, and I found 2 new ones, or 2 new stories that we haven't discussed before. One, this guy has come up with a sex robot that caters to men's needs by responding to the user's grunts and groans. So the way they do it, they call it male-oriented sex paraphernalia. It's fitted with a microphone and an analyzer that determines the intensity and frequency of audio signals. So they get... Let me just read this to you because I can't summarize this. Just here it is. Lusty men are invited to place themselves inside a hollow tubular body, which can be fitted with various modules to change the sensation depending on personal preference. But it's activated by sound.
You know,
what do you think?
We've had those for women for a while, and I just don't get it, really. I mean, I don't see the point or appeal, personally, because I
think it's kind of fascinating, really. The technology is just like, holy shit.
Yes, the technology is crazy, and I could, like, if they were to really put that to good use, we could probably find a few better applications for it, but I'm just kind of like, what? But what if you have a cough? What if you have a sore throat? What if you have neighbors?
It might bite your dick off. You never know.
Exactly.
You know, the one time you just want to get hot and heavy and you've got a sinus infection.
Right. How does it take?
So this other guy, his name is Ricky Ma YK. He has made headlines because he wants to publish a how to build your own sex bot handbook. And he's the one, did you see the one that came out that looks stunningly like Scarlett Johansson? Did you see the pictures? He's the one who built this. It was called Mark 1. It's amazing. Like, I think a lot of these still look creepy. I mean, even the really expensive $10,000, $15,000 ones that they'll show that are out there. This one freaking looked, I mean, this looks better than the shit in the wax museum, this Scarlett Johansson one. And so he spent about 40,000 pounds. So would that be about 60K in American dollars building this thing?
My God.
But he said he's working on a second prototype, but he decided, well, I think that I'm just going to put together a do-it-yourself book because, you know, they could have their tinker and their wanker thing going. So he's going to publish a book. And he just says, you know, I think that this is going to fill a void. He said it's going to be a big market in the future. Most people feel alone and they're not skilled at communicating with males or females. So he also says that he is very misunderstood in his home of Hong Kong.
I would imagine so.
Yeah.
I got a few issues with this.
Go for it.
Well, my first is I feel like Scarlett Johansson has got to have some kind of
compensation
or legal choice that, does she not have any rights to her? I mean, you would think rights to her likeness.
You know, I don't know because but you know what, you guys, though, when they're public figures, though, sometimes they can, make, an effigy, so to speak. The rules on that are pretty interesting. I mean, I'm rusty. I've been out of journalism for a while, but, she may not.
It's true. I mean, we do have a Kim Trashian doll, I think it's called, in our stores now. So right next to Katy Pervy. So I get it. Although it'd be hard to argue, a little harder, I think, to be like, oh, this thing I fuck every night is satire. Also, I just don't know that this is a good place for the world to be heading. If you're lonely, maybe try Pokemon Go and get out and talk to people. I don't know that shutting yourself up with a sex bot is going to help your mental state in the long run.
I would agree with that, but I would also say that it could certainly be a coping mechanism for a lot of different issues. But to say that people don't know how to communicate, that's why I created this, that's a little bit worrisome.
Mm-hmm.
I would hope we would work on communication more than working on, well, let's just have sex with a robot instead.
Right, because that was his thing,
Yeah.
was like, well, I'm not going to try to work on, myself. I'm going to work on a Scarlett Johansson that I can fuck instead. And I get if it's a temporary... I know I've talked about this movie a few times, but that is because it is so amazing. Lars and the Real Girl, where like he has this relationship with the sex doll, and that helps him acclimate to society, as opposed to it sounds like this is taking him away from,
like a replacement instead of a guide.
right? Instead of using it for coping, it's just copulation, I guess, instead.
Yeah. No, I mean, and it's a fine line between, are we judging or are we, actually expressing a concern? Because, one of the things that is so frequent of a theme here on this show is, okay, as long as, you're not hurting anybody else and infringing on their rights, knock yourselves out.
My worry would be that I think you also got to think, are you hurting yourself?
It's
Well,
like
it's a
an
reasonable
enabling thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Plus, I just don't fucking trust robots. I know we've covered that a few times.
That's
but,
fair.
All things mechanical. There's just, anytime, I've had enough car issues for a while. I wouldn't want to put any of my tender parts anywhere near anything that requires somebody other than me to deal with it. Unclamp or whatever.
Right,
I don't know. I'm worried about it.
Hopefully he's really good at what he does. Not a malfunction you want to have.
I found, the big bushy beards are everywhere. The guys, it's
Because they're hot.
do you like them, Meg?
Yes, I do.
Do you?
Mm.
Yeah, I'm just not really down with it. Carl has a beard, but it's really close, and he's actually always playing with the shapes with it. And I'm like, what is that? Half a beard? Like, I don't know. But
Levels, though. I mean, I don't want to date like ZZ Top or something.
Yeah.
There's definitely.
But I mean, there's more male facial hair around than I've ever seen in any, trend time, I think, right now.
Mutton chops need to come back.
Mutton chops, you like those? So they did a study though that said beards are just as hygienic as having a clean face, and even possibly more so. So there are two actually studies that were done. One of them involved over 400 male hospital workers. Found this. Check this out. Clean-shaven men 3 times more likely to carry bacteria on their faces compared to men with beards, and they also had higher rates, the clean-shaven guys, of certain bacterial species, and 10% more likely to carry the antibiotic-resistant bacteria. And they say it's probably because they cut themselves.
And that makes sense.
Yeah. So they really sort of turn any heebie-jeebies that some people like maybe me have for the really bushy ones. They're saying, nope. And they also looked at 10 surgeons with full beards and 10 without. After they shook their faces over the Petri dish, researchers concluded that the bearded group did not shed more than the clean-shaven group. So it's not even trapping stuff, or if it is trapping it, it's staying in there and it's not getting on everybody else.
That's really interesting.
Isn't that weird?
It kind of takes me back to the discussions you have in some sex ed courses about how women who shave are at a higher risk of getting infections because it does open your pores.
Yes.
And this is just on your face.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it makes sense.
Funny you bring that up because the vaginas are here. It's so weird. When you're looking at stories, this is so weird. I've noticed this throughout my entire career. Whenever I was still doing morning shows or even as a reporter, things pop up in clumps of things. So I find the guy beard thing, and then there's another article, it's completely somewhere else, about females shaving their vaginas. So I put them together.
Nice.
So this one says that, and this comes from the Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, and this is over in the UK. Women who shave their vaginas thinking it's more hygienic are actually putting themselves at a greater risk of infection because the hair can help stop the viruses and bacteria and acts for a cushion for the labia and the vagina. So if you think you're, do it if you want to do it for cosmetic reasons, but if you think you're doing it for hygiene, not so much.
And comfort reasons.
Yeah.
Especially if you're gay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty, and the Journal of the American Medical Association came in too, and they said they wanted to know why women do it. And they did a survey. 59% said hygiene. 31.5% said it made their genitals more attractive. And 21.1% said it was because their partner wanted it.
I think 100% should be because I think we're supposed to. Because that is the new society trend. I mean, that's why people do it. I honestly
wouldn't say that's always why people do it. Personally,
I'm going to contradict you too.
I shave
That's good.
personally because getting a pube stuck in someone's teeth and having that pull hurts like hell.
Yeah. Well, and okay. So yeah, I'll admit I had some trendy reasons, but I also found a gray hair and I freaked out and I'm like, oh hell no, I will not be having the gray hair. No. No.
See, I'm all about the short trim, like a golf lawn,
Yeah.
nice and tight.
Yeah, no, and hey, I'm all about the putting green, but here's the problem. I mean, I do not. My mom never got gray hair until she was like, I swear to God, like 78 years old. She was just kind of this dirty blonde, whatever. I do not have gray hair. In fact, my hair has gotten darker as I've gotten older, like super dark, like you're dark.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that is how dark my hair actually is. And I know, and it is. And my hairdresser even said, God, this would be easier to do blonde on you if, you were going gray, because like it wouldn't be so much to battle. Well, I don't accept my pussy going gray. I'm sorry. Just like my head is not going to be dark, my pussy's not going to be gray. Sorry, not going to happen. Okay, that was a TMI moment from Kelly, but I'm just
That's what the show's about.
Your hairdresser doesn't offer that service yet?
they do have this stuff called Brown Betty, but I'm not going to dye it. I'm not going to dye it. I got used to it, and I like it. What?
I dyed it once.
Oh, how'd that go?
Oh my God. Well, the problem was I dyed it green. So like,
Oh my God.
for 2 weeks, it looked like I had moldy underwear. The color just came
Did
off.
it, like wreck your underwear?
Yes.
Oh God.
I'm like, it's like I have Swamp Thing in my pants or something. Like this has gotta go.
Were you dating anybody?
No.
Okay.
So then
Because that would be disconcerting shit. Bri, are you okay down
That's
there?
amazing. I just love it.
I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. It was not, because we even bleached first too, and it was not the most pleasant experience overall.
Where were you going with that whole thing? What was that? What was your vision?
We were drunk at a party with bleach and hair dye. Everyone had already done their heads, so we figured, hey, it was a pube dyeing party. I was one of many.
Okay, so this is not just you on Saturday night?
No, sitting alone, just petting my cat, like, what should I do?
I'm glad to hear that there was some peer pressure and then there was a mob mentality, because that's odd just by yourself.
Although I don't know, I probably was the one who started all the peer pressure.
That's funny. So I thought that was pretty interesting stuff. And, in case people weren't sure, we're going to end on an orgasmic note today. And Bri, we really are glad that you're here. And I want you, as soon as you get your head around your next like 4 or 5 topics for blogs, I want you to email me back and say, I'm coming in. I want to tell you what I'm writing about. Okay.
Oh, hell
so
yeah.
we'll do that for the next time.
I do have one coming up about Comicon. So
Oh, you do? Okay.
do.
Well,
Yeah.
And where do we find that, by the way? Tell everybody.
Twin Cities Geek. It's twincitiesgeek.com.
Okay. And they look for Bri Lopez-Donovan. She's hyphenated. So get this one. There's an article out here, new research by Yale and the Cincinnati Children's Hospital. They wanted to look into orgasms. Interesting partnership for this, but whatever. This is something that women should read, because honestly, male orgasms, we know what the point of that is. It's a delivery mechanism, so to speak. But the scientists for centuries have tried to figure out how we manage to get them, right?
Yeah.
So basically, they said it might have actually stimulated the production, not just of the 2 hormones, the prolactin and the oxytocin, which makes us want to have sex so that we can procreate, but those hormones created an orgasm actually trigger the ovaries to release an egg. They
Holy
have
shit.
determined.
Oh,
Isn't that
that's
weird?
amazing.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I've heard this before. I mean, how many women have you ever heard say, "Oh, I knew exactly when I got pregnant"? Have you ever known anybody to say that? I've known a bunch of them. And they admit later that it was some crazy whacked out orgasm thing or whatever, and they were just sure. It makes sense.
It
know,
does.
but it's a really long article. It's pretty interesting, and I do have the link. But if you do want to read it, we'll have it up on Great Northern Sexcast.
But I would probably not assume that faking it would be a method of birth control, however.
Good point. Nice catch, Megan. No, that's true. But it's kind of a pretty interesting one. And so we've got some other stuff that I'm going to wait for Miss Colleen's triumphant, health rejuvenated return to talk about, because she sent over a couple of things, and I knew these are the kind of topics where I just go, Colleen, toss, and so we'll talk about that stuff. So Bri, any parting thoughts?
Well, when you mentioned the whole orgasm study, the first place my mind went was upsuck theory, which is this theory that, like, when a woman orgasms, the muscle contractions actually take in more sperm and kind of help your chances of getting pregnant.
I've heard that too. Mm-hmm. And so it's called the what?
The upsuck theory.
Upsuck. I thought you said upchuck. And I was going to be like, oh.
That'd be terrible.
Oh.
I don't know that either of those are great names for the
Not
phenomenon.
So the biologists just really have a knack for naming things.
That's crazy, though. That's a undertow not to be messed with. I've, like, ripped condoms off of people before.
That's terrifying.
I have the vagina
the condom
donata.
coming off part is terrifying.
Yes.
Oh my God. Okay. Thank you for clarifying, because when you said I thought you were just randomly running around ripping condoms off of strangers on the streets. I didn't realize you were talking about.
I went up to those couples in the park and we're like, hey,
when
keep going
that,
now.
What?
You know what surprise is really fun? That'd be terrible.
Okay. Yeah. So I went away and I'm back. Megan, thank you for sitting in and clarifying that.
Yeah, no problem.
And go to the Great Northern Sexcast Facebook page. Show your support for us. 18 months and going strong. And help us format the show going forward. And we'll be back at you next week. Thanks, Bri.
Thanks,
Meg.
Bye.
Bye-bye.